Rainbow Six Siege is one of Ubisoft's most successful games ever. The 5v5 tactical shooter is among the most played games in the world, but this success did not come easy.
A lot of it was still built on old habits.
I looked at it and I thought to myself that there's no way that could be optimized.
We made a very clear choice.
Its development was full of risks and technical struggles, and the problems continued even after the game launched. Weighed down by these issues, for a time it looked like Siege was doomed to a heartbreaking defeat.
Most operators were super unbalanced.
I really didn't think Ubisoft would improve the netcode or improve the lighting or fix all the glaring issues that they had.
For a while it felt like maybe we would just not be able to fix things in time.
But Ubisoft refused to give up. Over 4 years, the studio worked to not just fix the problems, but evolve Rainbow Six Siege into what is now considered one of the best multiplayer shooters ever made. This is the story of how it got there. Siege is the 8th core entry in Ubisoft's long-running Rainbow Six series. Inspired by Tom Clancy's best-selling novel, the games have historically centered on tactical single-player campaigns. That legacy was due to continue in Rainbow Six Patriots, which would double down on emotional and explosive storytelling. But its development was plagued by problems. With a new, more powerful generation of consoles fast approaching, Patriots was eventually cancelled in order to start afresh. Assessing its next move, Ubisoft realised that it was tired of scripted single-player missions. The team wanted to create the same intensity of a cinematic campaign, but in a multiplayer setting where those moments would be created by players. And so, a small team set to work on reinventing the series. This new project was called Rainbow Six Siege.
I was super happy that we were focusing on the PvP, because I was absolutely convinced this was the future of gaming in general and of this brand in particular. We made a very clear choice, and I'm pretty convinced to these days that if we had tried to make both and just have your big campaign and a bit of a multiplayer on the side, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be where we're at right now.
The world was introduced to Ubisoft's new PvP ambitions at E3 2014. The game's first demonstration featured dramatic footage of a game mode in which a team of attacking soldiers must rescue a hostage from a squad of defending terrorists. The match took place in the most unsuspecting of environments, a suburban family home. It featured atmospheric lighting and astonishing destruction technology that saw drywalls splinter with every bullet fired. The footage wowed many, but not everyone was convinced.
I watched the trailer and I said, that looks shit. And I thought to myself that there's no way that could be optimized. It didn't look at all like gameplay. So I ignored it for a long time.
I remember us playing this build and preparing all the video and everything, and it wasn't fake. Like, the whole thing was made in engine. It was real, just not something that you could easily give to someone because probably something would have broken somewhere.
Following the mixed reaction to the E3 demo, the team at Ubisoft Montreal set to work on refining their idea for a highly competitive Rainbow Six. The lighting was adjusted to allow for clearer vision, and the destruction changed to create better sightlines. The biggest evolution, though, came in the form of Siege's most recognisable element, the operators. These characters would transform Siege into the latest FPS subgenre, the hero shooter.
The whole thing came from Xavier, our creative director, and he was a very big fan of Dota.
Rather than players taking on the role of a generic soldier, as you did in previous Rainbow Six multiplayer modes, Siege would have you choose a specific, unique character that offered a bespoke tool for the team to make use of. Thermite, for instance, would be able to blow up walls to gain entry into new areas, while Fuse could fire grenades through a wall and into the adjacent room. Furthermore, these operators wouldn't just be blank faces. They'd be men and women from across the globe with backstories and personalities.
If you really want to get into a universe like this one, I really feel like getting a sense of who these characters are and how they interact with each other and what makes them human. All of this is super important. And I would argue even more in a realistic game because they're humans. So, I mean, what's closest to us than that? We should, I don't know, even if you're super focused on gameplay, I feel like you still need stories.
While designing the operators, Ubisoft quickly came to a realization. Traditionally, Rainbow Six had focused on the battle between special forces and terrorist cells. Continuing that lineage would mean creating terrorist operators, and the team were uncomfortable with that.
I think we were still inheriting from this tradition coming from Counter-Strike and other tactical shooters that has this opposition between the counter-terrorists and the terrorists. But the more time has passed, the more we're trying to move out of this and trying to just get rid of terrorists as much as we can. I think somehow we were held by the fact that Overwatch took the same bet in parallel and also did Heroes, and it kind of helped like convincing that okay, maybe we're not crazy, maybe there's something there.
The terrorists from the original demo were removed from the PvP modes, and Siege became a game of Rainbow versus Rainbow. With the initial operators designed and the hero shooter template locked in, it was time for Ubisoft to see what real players thought of the game. The team felt good about what they designed, but the first round of feedback didn't paint quite the picture that they had hoped. Fans playing the alpha began to report issues to Ubisoft, and it wasn't just one or two problems.
That had tons of issues. The one that was drowning us at that time was definitely matchmaking. Like it was so bad that it was likely to just kill the game at release. And when I saw the first stats coming out of the beta, I think, or maybe even the alpha, some things were really worrying. For the I don't know, Thermite was close to 100% peak rate for obvious reasons now, but at that time we were not really expecting it. And we knew that we would have a lot of work on our hand for the next years and even more.
The team battled to fix the problems uncovered during the alpha and beta stages, but Siege still suffered from numerous issues when it launched in December 2015. Matchmaking was a mess, making it difficult to get into a match. Hit detection was inaccurate, which led to unfair or even unregistered kills.
Okay, there's a hit rate problem.
Yeah, it's weird.
100%.
Slow servers caused the gameplay to feel unresponsive. The risk that Ubisoft had taken to turn Rainbow Six into a competitive online hero shooter was setting up to be a disaster. Yet, despite all these problems, it seemed that all hope was not lost.
When I looked at the retention during the first Christmas holidays, I was very, very, very happy with the curves that I was looking at, because those were not Ubisoft games kind of curves. But at the same time, the sentiment that was being expressed in Reddit and like all the places we could get like qualitative feedback from was very contrasted. We saw that the core of the game was very, very strong, that the whole tension around it, the team play, the distraction, like a lot of these things were really hitting exactly where we wanted to hit. But we had so many parallel issues that were hindering the core experience that for a while it felt like maybe we would just not be able to just fix things in time.
There was the opportunity to play the beta, so I tried to get involved. I did, and I was like, well, this is really wonky. And then release comes, and that I think is where it really hooked me. It felt really good. There were so many problems, but that's when I started to really get immersed in Siege.
Despite the bugs and the technical glitches, players were sticking with the game. People liked Rainbow Six Siege, and as 2016 rolled on, it was the continued enthusiasm of the fans that bought the team enough time to fix Siege's many problems.
The thing that I think really kept people interested and kept people saying that this could be something was just how unique the gameplay was. It's soft destruction, it's how the gadgets interact with each other or the environment, how a weapon sounds, it's how many shots it takes to down someone based on their armor, how much damage you're doing, and what the damage drop-off is at range. All these little things, you notice how much you're improving as you learn them. And you get to a point where you feel like you can control the flow of the game more than you could in the past. And it's that growth, I think, that really captivates most of us.
At the end of year one, we're starting to feel much better. Data is starting to look good. Like we've plateaued and we're even seeing it increase again, which is a shape of curves that we never ever see on a Ubisoft game. We had once some breathing time. We knew that we would probably have more time to try and fix the game, and also more and more reassured about the engine that was below these cars that we were driving. Like we felt more and more confident with the heart of the game.
The upswing of players was good news in many ways, but it also added further pressure. The issues plaguing the game simply had to be fixed. And so, in 2017, the development team decided to take a bold but necessary step. They put all DLC plans on hold and dedicated all of their resources to fixing the long-standing problems. They called this Operation Health. This major mission to fix Siege was to begin in May. But when exactly did the Siege development team realize that something drastic needed to be done?
Day one. Doing Operation Health requires confidence, because you're asking HQ to have a full season during which revenues are probably going to be lower. You're asking players to trust you, because you're telling them, hey, this content that I was promising you. It's not good if I give it to you right now. It's better for the game and even for you if I don't give it to you right now, which is a very hard message to send. It needed some maturation before we got to the point where we're like, okay, we're here to stay, but if we want to stay, there's no way we keep on building on this.
Operation Health took 3 months to complete. It created a DLC drought between the release of Operation Velvet Shell in February and the launch of Ying, Legion and Ella in August. But this sacrifice was worth it. Operation Health brought major and vital improvements. Matchmaking was streamlined, allowing players to get into matches without issue. Hit detection was improved, and new, faster servers made for a more responsive experience. Yet despite these game-changing improvements, many Rainbow players were still unhappy.
Operation Health was, for many casual players, I would say the worst Operation Siege ever had. And it was also, for me personally, and I think in the grand scheme, the very best operation that Siege ever had. People thought it would fix everything, but that wasn't even, I don't think that was the intention. The intention, for me, seemed to be like they were trying to set up the architecture to fix everything. And if it weren't for Operation Health, I think we might not be where we are right now, and that is continuously growing.
Operation Health had saved Rainbow Six Siege, at least for now. But in the background, something that would prove to be one of the game's most vital saving graces had been gearing up and slowly growing. Professional Siege esports was taking hold. With its 5v5 foundations being similar to Counter-Strike, it seems like esports was always part of Siege's destiny. The Pro League, an official Rainbow Six esports tournament, began in 2016 and was announced just weeks after the game launched. It's easy to imagine that the game was designed specifically with professional play in mind.
Alex Remy, who's our brand director, was also a very big fan of Dota, and clearly, like I remember a first PowerPoint presentation he made in very beginning of 2013. It was there, like you had the big stadiums, the crowd, like the fantasy was there for sure.
It's unique in a lot of ways, and it's hard to consume in a lot of ways, but what it adds to esports, I'd say, is a dedicated fan base, like a truly, really dedicated fan base that can appreciate its little nuances.
With Siege, Ubisoft was determined that they would make something that wouldn't just be another first-person shooter. They wanted something more than what Rainbow Six had been in the past. Esports was the key to that.
Saying that you build an esport game, there's a lot of luck in there. Like you're trying to make it compatible with some things that would be watchable, some things that has room for competitive gameplay, but then after that, there's a lot of luck in there.
Ubisoft succeeded in its ambitions. Siege did become more than just another Rainbow Six game. People were drawn into its esports scene and loved it, despite fierce competition from long-established titans like Counter-Strike.
I think it's distinctly unique. You know, a lot of people say, oh, this or that game's going to be the Siege killer, whether it be in esports or just in general. But I think Rainbow Six kind of has a very unique formula that's going to be really hard to shush up long-term.
By 2018, Rainbow Six Siege was a phenomenon. It was one of the 10 most played games on Steam and had huge followings on PlayStation and Xbox. The Pro League saw bigger crowds, filled ever larger stadiums, and awarded even more prize money. That success continued into 2019. New operators and maps were released, and the game's ranked matchmaking mode was improved. Further refinements were made to the Pro League, making Siege a better sport for both players and spectators. All of this success has only encouraged Ubisoft to make Siege even better. In the game's 5th year, the team has plans for a variety of improvements and changes. Thankfully, the hills to be climbed in 2020 and beyond are nowhere near as daunting as the mountain from those early days.
We're working on many things. I know lots of them will work, some of them might not. I can't really say what the game will look like in 5 years, but I'm quite confident that it would still be very big and healthy, probably even bigger than what it is right now.
I could go into the nuance of Siege balance and what I think needs to be changed, but it's all so small when you compare it to what needed to be changed. Like the sweeping improvements that we've had to Siege are just absolutely, you wouldn't have expected it to happen. When you go back to like when I was playing in the early seasons, I really didn't think Ubisoft would improve the netcode or improve the lighting or fix all the glaring issues that they had, but they did. I mean, they fixed a lot of the basic stuff.
Among those future plans is the team's long-standing major goal, which they set themselves in the earliest days of Siege, to reach 100 playable operators.
I mean, the number itself doesn't matter that much, right? It's a symbol. Like, we know that we want to bring a lot more operators because we believe in the value of having lots of operators in the game. And there are also other very important things we want to bring in the game that are not included in this symbol, but will matter at least as much, if not more.
Today, things look better than ever for Siege. The game has been a monumental success, and the risk of changing the very fundamentals of Rainbow Six has paid off. Its popularity has even led to the development of Rainbow Six Quarantine, a cooperative spin-off featuring the now iconic operators. But as Siege continues to grow, evolve, and reach new players, does that place increased pressure on the people who made this FPS phenomenon a reality?
It hasn't changed that much. I think the pressure is more the pressure that we put to ourselves. Because we have so many people playing the game that when we do something wrong, we're gonna know about it pretty fast.
Ubisoft risked a crushing defeat with Rainbow Six Siege. Abandoning the series' traditional campaign foundations for the lure of PvP led to technical problems that proved near disastrous. But the passion of Rainbow Six's newfound community provided the development team with the time and the drive required to turn around the game's fate. It was a hard-fought victory, but saving Siege was a mission worth seeing through.